Welcome to the We Are Not Lawyers podcast. I'm John.
And I'm David.
How you going today, mate?
I'm pretty tired, to be honest.
Been working all day, haven't you?
Yeah, a long day.
Well, David has something very interesting to read to us from one of the men's groups from today. So, Dave, give us a rundown on what you got there.
Yeah, this is amazing. And just to let you know that nothing that we say can be construed as
Legal advice.
legal advice.
Because we're not lawyers.
No, we're not lawyers.
I'm not a lawyer.
It's the name of this podcast, too.
That's right. We're not lawyers.
Just to make sure that no one thinks that this is a legal representation podcast. No,
Not
it's
at all.
Not at all. So this post is from the Family Law Conflict Resolution group. It's quite a prominent group online.
Yep.
It's got about 23,000 members.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah, so it has. It's a really good funnel for the lawyers and mediation services that these guys are represented in.
Yeah.
So here's anonymous participant, one of our favourite people. Hi all, I have final orders for my almost 4-year-old son that are 50-50 shared care and joint decision making. Sounds great.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
50-50. That's what we preach.
That's what we advocate for. To have dad in life and have mum in the kid's life as well. It is really awful. Things have gone south already, John. And isn't realistic. Isn't realistic. 50-50.
According to who?
According to her.
Mm-hmm.
Have I just presumed it's a her? Hang on. Isn't realistic due to how unreasonable the other party is.
We still don't know what the other party is, male or female. Here we go.
He has cancelled dentist appointments, MCH visits. What's MCH? Maybe someone out there can tell us.
MCH. Can't say I've come across that one.
Anyway, so even speech therapist appointments because he didn't agree. They are all routine care. Routine care.
Okay.
And I've had to rebook all of them and then had to tell him about the visit after the fact, only so that he doesn't prevent early intervention that is all recommended from professionals. So let's stop there, John, because you might have something to say. I'm not sure.
Recommended professionals. Recommended. According to who?
Well. Let's give her the
benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I like to say steel man the case of the poster.
Yeah.
And say, okay, these are people like dentists and say doctors,
paediatricians,
all the rest of it.
Yep.
And so they've got recommended from professionals. That's who they've had recommendation from. You go to a doctor, or you go to wherever, and they recommend a specialist in this or that or the other. And so he didn't agree. So they are all routine care, and I've had to rebook all of them because he didn't want to have those appointments. So do you think that, now she did mention joint decision making and 50-50 shared care. What do you think of that?
Well, she's basically not following what she's actually stating in there. 50-50 joint decision making, and then goes and makes all the appointments behind his back when he, for some reason, disagreed with those appointments.
You mean those professional?
Those professional recommendations that...
So what comes to mind, and again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not sure about you, John, I don't know your background 100%.
I'm not a lawyer.
So there's a case in the High Court in, I think, 1992, Marion's case.
Yep.
Are you familiar with this?
I've never actually studied the case myself. I have heard about it.
Okay, well let me share a few things from it.
Okay.
This was a case where a 14 or 15-year-old had some, the parents wanted to sterilise. Yes, and they were, the doctor said, no, we're going to stop you there. I need a court order for this, right? And so they went to the High Court, and the outcome of this is not so much in what happened in that particular case, because in the case that the High Court said, well, yes, the doctor is right. You really should get a court order for that. But the reason was the interesting part.
Okay.
The High Court when said, well, in the usual dealings with children, it goes to parental responsibility, right? And it's only when it's something of a serious nature as to when that attracts the law, right? So in this case, they were going to sterilise the kid, so, fair enough. In that case, the reason they wanted the child sterilised is because they were, atypical neurologically. So they had some issues, we'll say.
Issues, okay, yep.
Retardation, etc. And so Australia thought to itself, well, how can we do some eugenics? I know, we'll do it through the court.
Through the courts.
Yes, so essentially we are a eugenics nation, just to put that out there, which doesn't explain me or you. How'd we get through?
I don't know.
Anyway, so the interesting finding was that it falls to parents, and that basically if it's not something that's highly invasive, then it falls to the parents. So that might be like elective stuff like dentist visits, or other recommended professionals. So what do you think about that from that perspective?
Again, it's recommended professionals. Well, at the end of the day, the parents aren't making decisions. They're waiting on others to make decisions on their behalf.
They are. That's true.
And she's obviously not, communicating or discussing the requirements of the child with the OP.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's some conflict going on, and I don't know whether the guy's a bit of an asshole as well, or what the story is. I mean,
there's always two sides of the story.
There's probably more. I mean, she's saying they are all routine care, and I've had to rebook all of them, and then had to tell them about the visit after the fact. So right there and then, we've got breaches of the law on both sides. And not that I really want to get the law involved in every single scenario, but here you've got that she's breaching them because she's not letting him make a joint decision. And the reason that she's not letting him do that is because, well, firstly, he's apparently cancelled dentist appointments, which he should not be doing. Well, although if she's made them without
consulting with him,
then there's an issue. And it depends on the court order, but if it's 50-50, it should be that the decisions have to be arrived at. And basically what the court says is, well, if you can't arrive at the bloody decision, then fine, come back and we'll help you make that decision.
Well, there's another issue here as well, who's expected to pay for these appointments?
Well,
if she's putting it upon him to have to pay for the appointments, and he's like, well, you made them. You pay for them. You pay for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's you can see what the public would say, which is something like, well, like this is medical professionals, so you should both be paying equally, or depending on custody or all those sorts of things. My concern really is that they are both breaching, but she's trying to present as if he's the problem by just saying no.
You're right. She's only presenting her side of the story. Sadly, we don't have the other side of the story, which may contradict everything that's been presented here.
And I'm guessing that would.
They probably would, yes.
And like he might say, we're just speculating, he might say something like, well, every time she wants to do something, she just does it unilaterally, and I got sick of it, so I started to track what was going on, and then I'd cancel some of them, so something like that. And then I'd say to that guy,
it's quite possible.
Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that either. So, it's sort of like she makes a breach and then he makes a breach because of her breach.
And at the end of the day, the welfare of the child here isn't being considered either. Because maybe the child does need this care.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think the point is that, well, from my perspective, that the child has their life basically set by the parents, and if the parents are conflicting and all this other stuff, and they don't get to have their dental visit or their ears pierced or whatever it is, it's sort of like a bit of bad luck essentially. I know that doesn't sound nice, but otherwise, we're starting to go towards, oh, well, you no longer need consent of both parents. And that's where I start saying, no, I'd rather that you have both parents conflicting and that at least their rights are intact.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'd like to see. Anyway, if you have any...
You probably don't want to take the rights away from the parents and put them into the courts anyways.
No, absolutely.
Because then that generates other problems.
And you can see that's exactly where they're going with this. Is that,
correct, that's where it's heading.
They're going to defer to the court every time, and I say, can't you people just
come to an agreement?
Yeah, look at what's being stated
presented
from the other side, and then go, okay, we've each got where we get to cancel out one of the other the other person's ideas, and then the answer that we both don't like is the one that we'll do.
Yeah, there's no compromise.
Compromise, that's it.
Compromise.
I mean, that's the thing. Compromise is that situation where you both walk away dissatisfied.
100%.
Yep. So let's go on with this. Anyway, we had FDR, which is it's dispute resolution is what that is, family dispute resolution, coming up. Lawyer assisted to choose what school the son will go to.
Yeah.
Now like this bit. John. I have an older son, so this is the poster. I have an older son, 8 years old, who lives with me full-time from another father.
Yep.
It makes absolutely no sense that he attend a different school than his brother. What do you think about that? Getting into
Hang on, she's got 3 kids.
Well, we know 2, we'll say.
2.
She's got child with someone else.
Yep.
And then
child 1.
Yep, and so full time with that one, and then the son that she shares with the OP.
The OP, yep.
So she's saying, well, I've already got a child, and they're attending this school, and it doesn't make sense that the child that I have with this dad can't
go to the same school.
So what do you think about that? It's always interesting seeing what you'll come up with.
You like throwing curly ones at me, don't you?
Well, that's life, isn't it?
It is life, true. Look, at the end of the day, my personal opinion is that they need to actually compromise and work out what they're going to do for the best of the children.
Ooh, the best of the children. Now, let me. I mean, I'd like to rip you to pieces on that
Go
one,
on.
but I'm not going to. What I'm going to ask you is this: she says she has an older son, 8, who lives with her full time, and she says it makes absolutely no sense that he attend a different school than his brother. So it's half brother, first of all.
Right.
Now, when she says it makes no sense, what do you think of that? It makes no sense. Makes no sense at all.
In her opinion.
Ah, yes.
That's her opinion.
Okay, so what could be another opinion?
Well, that the other child goes to a school closer to the father, wherever he is.
Right.
Or the OP, whatever.
And that's exactly right. And so, as it turns out, in law, and once again, I'm not a lawyer. Like, you can tell I'm not a lawyer, right? I don't belong with the other 999 at the bottom of the ocean. So, so he doesn't even have to oblige, or he has no obligation to consider where the other child is going.
Yeah.
All this business of best interests again is just who complies with the state more, in my opinion.
True.
And it is just an opinion because since I'm not a lawyer, that's all it can be.
Yeah.
Okay, so he doesn't even have to consider that this other kid that she's got to a different father. And yet she thinks that makes absolutely no sense. So it's obviously very, and here it comes, it's not in his best interest at all. Well, who is she to say that?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Again, as I said, it's her opinion.
It's her opinion.
And it's all about her opinion, and it's her feelings, and it's her thoughts, and I.
That sounds awfully misogynist, John.
It is. Very much so.
No, it isn't. You're actually being factual and evidence-based. And we're doing things by the book.
By the book.
Even though we're not lawyers, and nothing that we can say can be construed as...
But we've read the book a few times.
Well, we may have. All right, so... She then says, and I know that he will not agree to the school. Well, that's his prerogative. That's what I'm saying.
We all have choices. And
that's right. And just for the sake of it, so she's saying that he's got no reason for rejecting that proposal.
Again, that's her opinion.
Okay, well, yes, and it may be and this is the thing, it may be the case that this guy's just being an arsehole and going, you know what, no, just because you suggested it, no.
But that's what she's telling us.
No, but I'm just saying that I'm steel manning and saying, like, even if that's the case, that position is actually the default.
Yeah.
It's her who has to justify, deviation from mutual agreement.
Yeah.
So she then says, so this will have to return to family court just to select a school. I want sole parental decision making for health and education because of his documented history of blocking services without any reason or alternative suggestions. I'm not sure that that's a ground for sole custody.
No.
So it's basically because we don't agree, the child should no longer spend time with the father, and the father shouldn't have any decision making.
Well, there's a very important word there. 2 words actually joined together.
Oh, what would that be, John?
I want.
I want.
I want.
These are the 2 most important words in the female vocab. Can't. I'm getting.
Now that is my misogyny rubbing off on you?
I'll tell you what. Look, if you called me a misogynist, there's no greater compliment. No, there's no greater compliment that you could pay me. To be honest.
Sure. Okay.
So, let's move on. We communicate via AppClose. Well, we've discussed what we think about AppClose and these.
That was 2 videos ago.
Yes, these things where they're trying to mandate essentially that you communicate only through these
apps.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, well, why? So what if you don't communicate via AppClose? Now, what? Anyway.
Humming pigeon.
Right, or
smoke signals.
Or maybe some elephants that stamp.
Now,
and they update, and I give him, and I dread the emotional dumping and legal threats. Emotional dumping
and legal threats.
I hate those. I really don't like those at all. The emotional dumping and legal threats. And that's just from my friends. Okay, so I wish I could have my little one with me more than week on, week off, and it breaks my heart that he feels like a visitor.
Well, that's the agreement, 50-50.
That is.
So it's week on, week off.
Yes, if you'd figured out who was right for you, and he'd figured out who was right for him to begin with,
that's right.
Maybe you wouldn't be in this situation. So we feel for her there. It's a shame.
It is a shame. That things don't work out, unfortunately.
Things don't work out, that's right. So then she says, I know he could never be as happy and cared for as what he is with me and his brother. Ooh, there's some conclusion I'm not sure that I reach. That sounds like
debatable.
That sounds like she's misandrous, to be honest.
Just a little bit.
Any advice? I don't know how to just fix it. Now,
can I just go back to the word misandrist?
Yes. I would never use that term, by the way. Never seriously.
Never seriously? Okay. So a misandrist is somebody who hates men.
Is it?
It is.
So does that mean a misogynist is someone who hates women?
Yes, that's what they.
I don't hate women. I just hate their conduct.
Their behaviour.
Their behaviour. Okay, so this post got quite a lot of attention, and
so we got some good responses.
We do, and so I'll just go through a few of them before I get to what I may or may not have said in response.
Contributed to this, did you?
I did, and you can see there's quite a few replies to that one.
To your contribution. Okay.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Okay, so
let our audience know.
Yeah, the audience should know. So Humble Otter 6956 said, following, as I'm in the same boat, OP won't agree on orthodontic work and simply will not agree on anything. So here it is again. So I would never suggest that the parties should not unite and agree on something as simple as orthodontic care.
Yeah.
However, being an arsehole doesn't remove your right to being a parent. If the worst possible case is that the kid doesn't get braces and has funky teeth, when they're like, I don't know, by the time they're 14 or 15, If they've got both the mother and the father, I'd take that every day of the week.
Yeah,
Every day.
100%.
So that's I'm standing up for all the assholes in this world. That's what I am, John.
There's a few of them out there.
I'm one of them.
Mm.
Okay, so then we've got philosophical menace says this: you could absolutely make a case for sole parenting there if you can find evidence that joint doesn't work within the children's best interests due to OP unnecessarily blocking access to services your child needs. Isn't that an interesting post? I wonder if that's legal advice.
That sounds like legal advice.
You could absolutely make a case for sole custody if you can evidence that joint doesn't work within the child's best interest. I'm just trying to figure out though.
How would you?
Hmm.
How would you?
How's that calculus done?
Yeah. That joint custody is not
in the
child's best interest.
Well, John, these are the decisions that are being made by our family court, and our family court, they are great. So somehow they are making that decision, and that's why we are here trying to fight back, so to speak, or at least provide a different perspective on things.
Yeah.
So it says, if you want to do that, then it's worth reflecting on and worth pursuing. Now, here's another one from an anonymous participant.
Yep.
I am really sorry you are going through this. My ex is the same, and I am dreading the decisions we have to make as our child gets older. What occurs to me is that both men and women seem to be in this scenario where they refuse to budge.
No, yeah, correct.
And I think that when you don't do things in good faith, this is where you reach. Right? When you destroy people's doors, for example, if you're living in a residence, or start shipping off components of computers, all of these sorts of things, people start to go, well, like they don't seem to be acting in good faith.
Correct, yeah.
So my ex is the same, and I'm dreading the decisions we have to make as a child gets older. The lawyer has told me that if we cannot agree on anything and there is constant conflict, often they do grant one parent sole decision making. I mean, again, our Lord and Saviour, the family court, making decisions that sounds like it has no authority to make, because unless there's some crime going on, like if you could demonstrate that the actions from one or the other are negligent, right, or neglect or abuse, like okay. Now you've got me.
Drug use and alcoholism.
Well, not even that. I mean, I think that there are people who are functional alcoholics. Not myself, John. I don't drink at all.
You don't drink? No,
I don't.
Many a times I've brought out a drink or two to celebrate things.
Oh, and I reject it?
You rejected them.
It's disgraceful behaviour.
Yeah, I know it is, but that's all right.
So
I wasn't offended.
No. Well, maybe you should be. So if you can show me that alcoholism or that drug use is leading to harm and abuse, neglect and negligence, then I'll agree with you. But by itself, people are going to live imperfect lives. We are all fallen, John.
Yeah. Well, look, we'd have an evidence trail of that.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
which in most cases would end up going down a criminal path. Drink driving, abuse, whatever the case may happen to be. There's all sorts of different roads that those paths can take you. Yeah. I personally myself have never travelled those paths. I don't have any substance abuse issues.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, I don't.
But those are the things that don't seem to be considered nowadays, because we're seeing all of these. I mean, we've seen the statistics which show that mothers, 45% get sole custody, and there's this 10% of men who get sole custody where the woman is not really functional, and then this big group in the middle which are more or less decision making by the mum as well.
Yeah.
And so we know that the court is deciding on these sorts of grounds, going, well, we don't know what to do, so we'll just give it to one because you seem to squawk louder.
That's right. So do the courts have the rights to
The
to
right.
to make these decisions?
I'm going to say the right. No, they don't have the right. They have the. How would you frame this? They have the power.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the authority, and this is why we are here. Because if they were doing things, see, like the way I see it is that authority is when power is justified. So if the family court were making decisions that you can understand their reasoning,
Yeah.
And their essentially morals based, ethics based, then we could probably sit there comfortably and go, oh look, the numbers between 50-50 between men and women is around equal. And
Yeah.
you go, no, fair enough. You're making justified decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because men are bad in this percentage of cases and women are bad in it, but that's not what's going on.
Okay, so they have the power, but they don't have the authority.
100%.
Okay, where would they get the authority if they had it?
Well, that's a good question, and that's probably a different
Video?
Yeah, it's probably a different video, and
I'll make a note of that.
make a different.
The authority of the courts.
Well, I think the way that Australian law works, it would be derived from the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The way that our Constitution used to work is that it have restraints on legislative powers, including, for example, the section, I think it's like 51, section 23 of, oh God, I've gone all fucked, you'll have to remember
That's all right. So you just used a very interesting word, restraint.
Yes.
Now, these parents here that are arguing over doctors and appointments and schools and...
Yes.
To me, reading between the lines, I see that most of these people are angry at their OP
Yes.
and aren't prepared to compromise.
No, that's
Right.
the issue.
And that to me also indicates that they don't have a level of restraint within their own personal lives.
There's definitely throughout the community, and I think just going back to it, like it's we used to have restraint based on the powers that are coming from our constitution. So you have authority to make decisions around infants and some custody issues, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then we obviously had things like no fault divorce come in, etc. And now you've got a whole lot of separations happening, and they are acting in an administrative state, and you can see why, because we've got so many people who have no idea what to do. They hate each other, and they're stopping each other from making reasonable choices. And even in this case, when you say, well, a reasonable choice is actually to do nothing, that's the first principle. In fact, that's the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
And it's actually the first one in law as well, is to do nothing. Like that's the first solution. And it's only when that is no good.
Yep.
Then you move on to other solutions. So,
any other more interesting?
Well, I'm just going to read what I wrote.
Okay. Oh yeah. Yep.
And see what we make
Let's see
of
what
that
David had to say about
before
it.
we wrap it up.
Yeah.
So, I wrote back and I said,
and I must add, we are not lawyers.
No, this is not legal advice, no matter
how you
spin it. So this was said on behalf of the Facebook group Aussie Dads Fighting Violence Orders. Check that group out as well. I said this: the honest truth, and I say this with respect. Fair enough on my behalf. Well, that's great. I've got some respect. I got some respect. He has zero obligation to consider whether your other child goes to school. None. That's your family circumstance, not his problem to solve. He has his own reasons for his preferred school, and they're just as valid as yours.
Yeah.
So again, the
equality, 50-50.
Right, and the father might, like I said, might be an arsehole, and I might be defending his right to be an arsehole. So he also doesn't have to consent to services. Now we know just from the framing that it seems like he's gone beyond that, but so has the poster
100%.
in this case. So withholding consent under the agreement isn't obstruction; it is the mechanism.
Yeah.
Right. You booking appointments and notifying him after is you breaching the order, not him. Him intervening is him breaching the order. So, family dispute resolution might resolve the school question, but if you go in expecting your position to prevail, you may be disappointed. Although, having said that, we've seen some bias in decisions made by green-haired people. And if it doesn't resolve, it goes to court. That's not the system failing, that's the cost of two people who can't lay their weapons down long enough to accept that neither of them gets what they want. It's very pragmatic of me, John.
It is very much so.
And that's not usually my MO.
Stance.
Yeah. That's what a negotiated outcome actually is. But I'm very aware of the context of this chat group, which, like I said, is run by mediators, funneling into their services. Both people leave unhappy, as we talked about. That's negotiation. If you can't get there, a judge will decide, and they may not consider your older son's school either. I mean, they might.
They might not.
I would hope that they don't. I don't think it's got anything to do with it. It's got to do with, I mean, you say, well, this is your choice regardless of why, and this is your choice regardless of why. Now let's come to what neither of you want. So then I said, the harder thing to name, the way you've written this suggests you experience his equal parental authority as the problem. That's harsh. That's very harsh, John, after all my diplomacy. And I said, it isn't. It's the deal. The sooner that lands, the better the next 5 years of school decisions are going to go. That's actually true, like regardless of anything else. Because if you can't settle this, you will end up in family court. And the likelihood is, if you want to fight for sole custody, it will extend because it sounds like the guy's digging in too. So all I can say is that there were a number of replies and you can see that most people didn't like
your response.
No, and they did like responses to me that were really going after me, and then I went after them in return because you got to defend. You have to defend your turf.
100%.
I'm certainly not going to go down wondering.
No. And look, we've sort of been following some of these groups now for a while, and there are some quite interesting posts from various different people.
There are.
And in most cases, give or take, 5% this way, 5% that way, it's all sort of pretty much the same.
It is.
And, it just depends on what sort of cherry you want to put on top.
True enough. And I just want to say, like, on this particular thread, and this is pretty common, the admin has temporarily turned off commenting.
Yes. Because that happens a lot as well because sadly when you put out a post, not attacking, but being clear with the points and they don't seem to agree with your take on things, they block you or they turn off comments.
I mean, it's affecting their bottom dollar, isn't it? Like when you get...
it is, 100%.
I mean, because like basically what I've outlined without, like if you read between the lines, is mediation's not going to help you. You like stop thinking that he's the enemy and you're the victim. Like that's not going to help, and he's probably doing the same. Because if this woman is behaving like that, you can bet that she married or got together with a guy who's a simp.
Quite possible,
right? And so the way he behaves is probably not particularly masculine
and
bickering.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go, guys. There's another one for you. I'm John. I'm not a lawyer. This is David.
And I'm not a lawyer either.
You sure?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure,
Okay. Well, we're not lawyers. And
this has been brought to you by
fairIncomeLegal.com.au. Check us out.
Cheers.
Till next time.
See you, mate.
Bye. See you, bud.